Hi, I'm Natasha Lara Lewis with Esther's Place, and today we're going to be making a wool bowl. This is wet felted, gonna look something like this in the end. This one I've shaped after I finished felting it into a little vessel. It's wonderful to hold all kinds of trinkets and a lot of fun to make. So let's get started. We've got a few basic supplies, some water. This is warm water. Not too hot, not too cold, nice and warm to the touch. That'll be for the wet felting. We've got some soap. This is Eucalan. It's a wonderful product. I enjoy using it because it's no rinse. This one's lavender. It comes in lots of fun scents. And we'll just need a drop of soap in the water. We'll show you that later. We'll also need a small Ziploc bag. Have a couple extra of these on hand because sometimes they leak and sometimes they break. A small Ziploc bag there. We'll need a pantyhose. Great way to use up those extra pantyhose. I like to use the nude colored ones that aren't too thick, and we'll be using that to contain our felting in the bag. So save those pantyhose, don't get rid of them. We need an orange. You can make this bowl any size you like, depending on what you use on the inside. This is our resist. It holds the space on the inside to create our bowl. I've used grapefruits, I've used cuties, any sort of citrus or ball will work. We'll also need a variety of merino wool batting. Now you can make this with any kind of wool. If you use merino, it's a softer wool, it will felt faster. Or if you use a coarser wool, you just might have to do a little more rolling, as you'll see later in the video. This is about 1/4 ounce to 3/8 ounce of wool. Using more will give you a denser, thicker bowl. Using less will give you a lighter bowl or a luminary. You can put a small LED candle inside and light it up for a really magical piece. And a towel. Alright, so we're going to take our orange. We're going to dunk it in a little bit of water here. Just get it slightly wet. We want the surface to be a little damp. It'll help the wool to hold on to it. Now we're going to take our merino, and I've got a big sheet of batting. We're going to split that thickness wise into 3 layers. I like working with the batting because you can easily tear it into these pieces instead of pulling out little tiny pieces of the wool. So we're going to take that batting and wrap it over our wet orange, and we want to just tuck in the sides, wrap this whole piece around the orange. Don't worry if you still see the orange underneath. We have 2 more layers to cover up that with. Alright, so let's add that second layer, and then we'll add our third layer. So by now, you should not see any orange underneath, only just the wool, and it's going to be quite woolly. Alright, looking good. So if you have a fold or a crease in an area, we want to take that and pull it out so it's nice and fluffy. That way we won't end up getting a crease in the end. So I'm going to just check, oh, I have another crease right here. We'll just fluff that out. So now we've got our nice smooth orange covered with wool. Alright, so have a few different colors to decorate. We're going to put a band of color around the middle here. So we're just going to stretch this wool just around the middle there. I'm going to add a little design. And I've got a few different colors. I thought it would be fun to add to it. You can do as many colors and designs as you like. So this is where the fun part begins. You can make these in any size that you like, even using something very large like a balloon in the beginning. Alright, so now we've got our orange covered with all kinds of beautiful colors, and we're gonna stuff that inside of our pantyhose. So sometimes it's helpful if you're doing a big one to have somebody else on hand to stuff this into the pantyhose. Otherwise, you're gonna open up that pantyhose and very carefully drop your ball inside. a little wool came off with mine, so I'm just gonna set that aside. So my orange is nestled inside the pantyhose. I'm gonna pull this nice and tight at the top and tie a knot. The reason we put it in a pantyhose is because it will keep the wool right in the place it ought to be. The wool won't slip around during the wet felting, and we'll get a much more uniform result. Alright, we're going to trim that extra pantyhose off. So now we've just got our orange wrapped in wool, put in a pantyhose. Okay, into the plastic bag it goes. So once we've got that in the plastic bag, we're going to take our water, add just a drop of soap to it. You can use any soap for this project. I just like this soap because it's a no rinse. We're just going to add a drop. And we're going to take that water and add enough to the orange to get it damp. Now as you add the water, very carefully squeeze it to let it absorb in. And what we're looking for is something that is damp and wet, but not extra soggy. So we don't really want to have extra water floating around in the bottom of the bag here. So we want to add just enough to make it really wet, but not soggy. So once we've got that all absorbed in there, we're going to seal this bag up, removing all the air. And we're going to start rolling. Now the rolling is what causes the fibers to tangle together and turn into felt. So let's get on a roll here. All right, so now that we've got that rolled, we're going to take and see what we have inside. At about 10 minutes of rolling should be enough. We're going to open that ball up and we're going to squeeze out some of that extra water. So, squeezing it into our cup, we're going to discover what we have just created. All right, let's take and roll that in the towel a little bit, get some of the water off. And we are going to now cut this nylon panty off. So we're going to just cut the knot at the top, peel this pantyhose off, and as you peel, you might hear a slight Velcro sound. That means that the wool has adhered to the pantyhose a little bit, so just be careful. You want to hold the wool slightly as you're peeling this off so that it doesn't tear. So we're just going to work our way slowly, taking this pantyhose off, and we'll discover a nice ball of wool. All right, so we're going to put that back inside our bag. We're going to add a little more water and just do a little bit more felting. So a bit more warm water, seal that up, remove all the air, and roll. The reason we don't leave the pantyhose on the entire time we roll is because if we do, that pantyhose will be permanently adhered to our wool. So we want to take it off about halfway through. So we'll do about 5 more minutes worth of rolling this way and then drain the water and see what we have. Okay, so about 5 more minutes worth of rolling and we have a nicely fused, smooth ball. We're going to take and just get a little bit of that water out of it before we cut it. This also helps to toughen up the surface. Work it around on the towel and That will give it a little more density and a little more tightness to the felt. Also, it will help you get some of that water out. And then we're going to cut the top off of it. We need to get this orange out somehow, right? Okay, so if you look at the orange and you see a thin spot, that's an ideal place to cut. Otherwise, we'll just take and find where you want to cut and pinch a little bit of wool up. We'll then take the scissors and cut across. We want to always make a smaller cut than what we think we will want. The wool will stretch, and if you cut it too big, it might stretch a little bit larger. You can always cut small and go back later to cut it larger, but we don't want to go too big in the beginning. Okay, so we've made a cut. We're going to just open that up a little bit with our fingers so we can get this orange out. All right, so pop the orange out. And now we're going to take that little bowl that we've created, we're going to roll it in your hands. That cut edge that we created is going to smooth over nicely by this additional rolling. So roll this for a couple minutes. It's going to shrink a little bit. It's going to get a little tighter and denser this way. You can also give it a few squeezes every once in a while and some more rolls. All right. So once we've done a little more rolling, we're going to shape our vessel or our bowl. We want to put our fingers inside, stretch it out. This one, I actually took a piece of PVC pipe and the PVC was underneath. I stretched it out and gave it its shape. Otherwise, you can just use your fingers. You can also stuff it with some plastic bags to give it some shape, and there we have it. A wonderful little bowl. We can store all kinds of different things in there, and it's all made entirely with wool and wet felting. Enjoy! I hope you can make more of these at home.